for another exciting session. And as you can see, we are ready. So today we have the honor of hosting Dipti Goguri, and she's prepared for us a topic that, like I mentioned in all the announcements, is at the core of SQL and that aspect of data engineering. It's titled Stop Guessing, Solve SQL Performance Problems with Query Store. And right now we're at the intro, so I have to quickly be done so that she has the time she needs to share with us on what she's planned. I'm going to paste this in the chat so that you can join, you can follow us in all the other platforms we have presence and be engaged beyond just these webinar sessions that is more like you learning. That becomes more of the two-way conversation channels. And for our special guest, like I've said, she's someone who genuinely enjoys sharing knowledge. She's a SQL Server database administrator with, years of working across different companies and sharing the knowledge and contributes like really intensely share knowledge in different formats, webinar like we have now. She has a blog, dpanuggets.com. She is a 3 times Microsoft MVP. She is an active MCT, Microsoft certified trainer. She's the co-organizer for Microsoft Data and AI South Florida user group, and many other groups, Data TGIF, Data Cloud Driven User Group, Feature Data Driven Summit, Data Bash Conference. So you can see one recurring word, data, 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 data. So we have the honor of having her here. If you've ever had questions that you need someone who is competent on both the technical and on the practitioner side and who probably has seen it all, you are lucky today. You can put your question in the chat. So I'm going to get out of our way and hand over to her now so that she can take us through what she has planned. And it's a lot. I've seen a peek at it. So over to you, Dipti. You can put your questions in the chat and we will address them at the end. I will go away now and hand over to her. So over to you. Thanks.
So a quick question that everybody is able to see my screen in the presentation mode, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael, once again for giving me this great opportunity. And thank you everyone for being here today. So I would like to present on the topic which might be familiar to you, but if you're not familiar with Query Store, please do not worry because I put this presentation in such a way that if you are already working with Query Store, this will definitely be a content that you will be like it will be a refresher for you. But if you are very new to Query Store, you will get enough idea to go ahead and start working with Query Store in your SQL Server. Just because like I choose this topic because this Query Store feature comes with SQL Server, so you do not have to purchase or like it's not a third party tool. It comes with the SQL Server, so it is very easy to use and take the advantage of some features within the Query Store. So I'm going to talk all about that, all of that, and also if you like, I'll give a additional content on where you can go ahead and go a little bit more deep dive on the session that I'm talking. Like I have several other videos that I presented on Query Store where I went a little bit more deep dive on it. You can go ahead and look into it as well. But for today's session, this is a 50-minute presentation. So I thought like, okay, let me put as much as I can in here so that people can learn from it. So I hope you will like it. And so let's get started. Mm. A little bit about me. I do not want to spend a lot of time on this slide, but I have been a Microsoft MVP, and this month, July 15th, I came to know that I did not get renewed this year. So maybe in the future, I will keep on doing the things that I am doing. So let's see how it goes. But currently, I have been an organizer and I have been an active speaker. I will be an active speaker. So if you want to connect to me, I think LinkedIn is the best place to go. Just search by name. by my name, and you'll find me. And dbanuggets.com is a website where I usually post about not only the SQL Server but about motivation and philosophy. I love philosophy, so I talk a lot about life and all of that. So if you are interested in any of that, like please visit my website. So let's begin. So I would like to give a scenario, a real-time scenario that I have been facing since long time. So as a DBA, I have been working as a DBA all my life, and every month once I have to be on call for the whole damn week. Sorry to use the word damn week, but it gets harder sometimes. Most of the times, whenever you get a call in the morning, like 2 a.m. in the morning, I feel like, oh damn, again. So you know what I mean, if you are one of those guys who have these on calls rotations, right? So imagine, like, if you've never been on the on call, that's fine, but imagine a situation where, like, I am on the on call, or you are on the on call, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, and you get this on call. I usually get a call as well as a text message. So I got a text message with the incident number, which is a priority number one. And after I open the ticket number, the incident, all the information that I got from the ticket is this. The query was running fine until yesterday, but now performing terribly. The query that was working, again, the description looks exactly the same. They need very immediate assistance to investigate the issue. Of course, they assigned it to me because I'm on call, and this was a critical. The attached information or the script is all that I could have: the database name and the query that they have been running behind the scenes. That's all will be attached. None of the other information will be attached. Usually, at least for me, none of those information will be attached. So I have to figure it out myself, why the query performed really well yesterday and why it did not perform well now, and what's going on. Again, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, right? Before query store days. I take this as an example, like how it used to look like before query store days and how it used to look like after query store days, right? So before query store days, I am in the open field, I can say, to figure out the issue and to also um, estimate and figure out how to resolve it as well. So before query store, how would you, if the same scenario is put in front of you, how would you resolve, how would you even find the issue, right? You, all you got is a database name and the query. So first you need to figure out, did something change? So developer, usually they will be on call as well. At the same time, I immediately ask them, like, did something change? Like, did you release something, or like did somebody dropped something from, like, from the plan or something, like any indexes have been dropped, or did you make any change? All sort of that good stuff, right? Developer, most of the time they said no, nothing changed, right? Then I will go through and I'll dig through the email. Again, I'm a DBA here. I want to resolve things as easily as possible. So I'll make sure to check through the emails, like if any other DBA worked on the same exact issue before. I will search in the emails. Usually, sometimes I find the exact steps my DBAs performed, and I usually go through that. But this time I did not find anything, right? So next step I'll go through, okay, let me go ahead and check the plan in the cache. Like, I have this query, I will go ahead and check the plan cache. I'll run some DMVs to see what is the plan in the cache. But sometimes you'll just have a plan which is currently in the cache, which is an active plan. You will not have a history of the plans to see, like, okay, yesterday it was working fine, but now it is not working fine. Maybe plan has changed, but I was unable to figure out and pull the plan which was working fine before, right? Because all the plan cache will have, like, current plan, what is currently being run, that is there. And so in several scenarios, the plans in the cache might be kicked out of the cache. In here, in this situation, the plan is still in the cache, but it's not performing well, right? So what's the point? Next, I'll go through the error log, like if something happened on the server level, again, nothing happens. Check if the rebuild index was executed recently. If there was any rebuild indexes happen, and that rebuild indexes would automatically refreshes those statistics as well, and maybe that has kicked in to create a new execution plan for the query, and that plan, when it executed, maybe it used a wrong parameter, like maybe a parameter sensitive problem, who knows, maybe that is a problem. I'll go ahead and check if there are other jobs that are running, and I'll go through the monitoring tool. Sometimes I will directly go to the monitoring tool to figure out if I can find any issue. Like I'll go to the monitoring tool, like for example, like we use DPA monitoring tool from SolarWinds. I'll go and check like what happened yesterday, like did something changed, or like what is the execution plan showing? Is it showing like to add an index or something like that? Again, I will be everywhere in an open field to figure out what was going on at 2 a.m. in the morning. And after looking at all of those things, right, fixing the issue is in another two different worlds, right? Finding the issue and fixing the issue. So the immediate thing that I would think of, like in this type of performance tuning thing, the first thing, the easiest thing that we could do is to go ahead and recompile, so that maybe the recompile will create a new plan and that will run properly. Again, this is just my imagination. Like if I recompile, maybe it will run. There is no necessary that it will run faster, right? Because the parameter that I choose right now could be the bad parameter again. Who knows, right? So I will try that. I will update the stats on the table. That I have to admit, I did this several times without even knowing what's going on, because most of the time it used to solve the problem. And I used to be, okay, for now, the problem is solved, so I can go back to sleep, right? Because the updating stats will trigger the execution, like trigger the new execution plan. And sometimes that execution plan is good and the query runs faster, but that is not actually solving the problem, because at any point in time that plan can change, and then again the performance can go down. Updating the indexes again, all the indexes that are being active within the execution plan, I can go ahead and update those indexes to see if it works. Again, 50-50 percentage here. And sometimes I do remove the plan, and it came to a point in my office where like they the developers literally put the, hey, this is the plan currently in the cache, the last time you have removed this exact plan, and then you can rebuild the plan again through forcing a recompile, right? That has been, sometimes it has been a standard as well, because like removing the plan from the cache and then use a specific good parameter to force a new plan. Again, this is not a bad idea to fix the problem quickly, but I am not actually resolving the issue, right? But these are again, I am a DBA. I do not resolve. I do not resolve the issue permanently, but I can work with the developer to resolve the issue permanently, because they are the one who have to rewrite their code. But I can help them like where they have to make the changes and stuff. But from my end, I can bring the plan from the cache, clear that plan in the cache, that specific plan in the cache, and add a good parameter and create the new plan. This was the case until the query store. Again, this is not like a pitch or something, but seriously, query store really helped me resolve the issues as quickly as possible before permanently resolving the issue by working with the developer. So, how did the same story worked when the query store is turned on, right? But this time the query store is turned on. So there are very less steps right now for the same exact problem. Now I have a location within the database, within the SQL engine, where I can go ahead and search for that query that they have attached in the ticket, and I can go ahead and see what's going on with that query. And within couple of steps, I can see what was the plan before, what was the current plan, how the same exact query performed over time in the past, and I can compare the execution plans. What is the current execution plan and what was the execution plan yesterday? And I can compare, and within few steps, I can choose the plan. I can choose the last good plan, and I can go ahead and force the plan. That is one of the advantage of query store. We are going to talk about that later in the session, but within few steps, I can go ahead and resolve the issue quickly as possible, and I can let the developer test it that I have forced a plan, which was the good plan, which was the plan that the query executed yesterday, which was a good plan, right? I can force that plan, and I can let the developer know. They can test it, and immediately they can send the notice to the users, and users can rerun the exact query from the application, and everything is fine, and I can go back to sleep in peace, right? That was the case several times, not even one time, but several times. We have been using query store a lot, and we have been using on almost all the databases, if not every single, most of the critical databases, we turned this query store feature on. So that's how I took the advantage of query store in the critical scenarios. And as an agenda, what we are going to see in this presentation is like query store fundamentals. Like we are going to talk how query store works behind the scenes, what it can do for us, what are the some of the benefits that we have with query store, and how to view the data in the graphical user interface within SQL Server Management Studio. Couple of key benefits and demos on scenarios I have been using the query store on, and couple of best practices that you can follow while using query store. So let's talk about query store fundamentals. So what is query store, right? Before SQL Server 2016, we do not have this feature, but from SQL Server 2016, they released this feature known as query store. This is a database level feature, not the server level. If you got a SQL Server, you can't enable it at the server level so that it can be enabled on all the databases. You can't do that. It is a database level feature, meaning like wherever you want to enable, you have to choose those databases, and you have to go ahead and turn it on in the properties of the database, right? And once you enable it, you are giving the ability to for the query store to collect your queries as you run. As you run the queries, it will go ahead and collect those queries along with the execution information like execution stats, how much CPU, memory, IO information, how much it took, along with the execution plans and all of that stuff. Like it will also save the execution plan in there so that you can see like what was my execution plan in there, right? When the query was performing well or when the query was performing bad, it will collect all of that data. And with that information, anytime you are having any performance issues and you know what is the query, what is the database, directly you have a centralized location where you can go ahead and search like what was the performance differences and why was this plan changed? Are there any errors and all of that? So it have been introduced in 2016 and later on all the versions, right? On all the editions of SQL Server, it's been enabled on Azure SQL database. You need to remember that if you try to turn off the query store on Azure SQL database, you won't be able to do that. It will not throw an error, but it will not turn it off. I think it will also throw an error. The last time I checked, I did not see an error. You can't turn it off, but then I went ahead and checked, it did not turn it off. So you can't turn it off on Azure SQL database. Azure SQL managed instance, it is available there as well. Azure Synapse Analytics on the dedicated SQL pool only, and SQL DB in Microsoft Fabric that's been released recently, right? You can also enable there, and you can't enable on the master or the tempdb database. These are the system databases and you can't enable it there. So Like I mentioned, it is a database level feature available in all editions of SQL Server and Azure SQL Database, enabled by default on a managed instance. I have placed this point in the previous slide as well. So it's enabled by default in the read write mode for all the new databases starting from the SQL Server 2022. Like if you are migrating any old databases like from 2016 or 2017, and in those environments you do not have query store and you migrated it over to SQL Server 2022, there you have to manually enable it. But if you are creating the new database, like create database name on the SQL Server 2022, it will automatically have the query store enabled by default. And it requires at least the version of Management Studio 16 to see the query store data in there. So what sort of data is collected? Like I mentioned, this feature has been introduced in 2016. So when they introduced it, they have been collecting the data, all the CPU, IO, memory, but they did not include the weight stats information in there. But from SQL Server 2017, they added the weight stats information. All the things that you are seeing on this slide, duration, reads, writes, physical reads, DOP, row count, all that good stuff is stored within the query store. Even the memory used and what is the wait time, all of that information. So because you have the history of the plans, you can easily go through back and forth. You can select the dates, you can filter the dates, like, oh, I just want to see the something happened during this particular time frame. I need to know that. You can go ahead and filter out those dates and times and you can get that data. Again, depending upon how much data you want to put in there, you can actually capture that information. So there are certain graphical user interface reports that are within the query store that you can take advantage of to see what are the top most resource consuming queries. If a developer comes and wanted to know, get a peek of like, hey, what are the top resource consuming queries that I can work on? Like I can tune these queries on, and you can get that list for them within a minute or so. So what sort of data is collected? Like I mentioned regarding the execution information, all of that is collected. But the statements, regarding the statements itself, select, insert, update, bulk insert, delete, merge, all of these statements will be collected within the query store. It won't collect the plans for the DDL statements such as like create, index, those sort of things. And all the information that is collected is the cumulative resource consumption information. Like if you want to know a single execution and wanted to get that information out of that single execution, it is not possible here because it will blow up the query store within an hour, depending upon the amount of data you are collecting, right? It will blow up the query store if we do that. So how query store collects the data is like there is something known as interval. By default, it is 15-minute interval. Every 15 minute, it will collect the cumulative information and it will store it as a single record within the query store. So every 15 minutes, as the new interval kick in, a single record is stored for a single query. No matter how many times it runs, it will only store one record in there so that way it won't blow up the query store and the space and everything will remain normal without filling up the space. So what permissions are required? Let's say you are a DBA, you have the sysadmin rights. You can do whatever you want to do with the query store. You can turn off all of that, right? You are responsible for the query store as well. But if you wanted to give the developer the they would like to see this data because they are the ones who will be tuning the queries more and more. They want to look at these data, and sometimes they also want to force the plan. But usually DBS don't want to do that because all the developers will force and unforce and it will become a chaos. So as a DBAs can have all the rights to force and unforce the plan, but you can give the ability for the developers to view the data and that requires the view database state permissions on the database, right? And for the administrative actions like force, unforce, like clear out the data within the query store, all of that, you need to have the DB owner permissions as well as the alter permissions on the database. For the Azure, reader or the contributor roles are needed. And like I mentioned, you cannot turn off the query store on Azure SQL database. Couple of more slides before we go into the demo. So before going further, anyone have any questions so far?
I'm also watching the chat, so I would say no questions yet. I think we are all getting your explanation and following intently.
Sure. So I'll
Thanks.
go ahead.
Yes.
So So sometimes you might be having a question like, but there is this plan cache already, right? What's the point of query store? Like plan cache already have the current execution plan and all the information if I want to look at anyway. So why query store? So the main advantage of query store is like you have collection of execution plans over time, but plan cache, no, you can't do that, right? The current execution plan only be stored in the plan cache. if a if the query is running multiple times, maybe sometimes it have different plans in there, but it is a temporary location, just like the memory we have. Like anytime there is a pressure on the SQL server, the first thing that the SQL server do is to delete the least it recently used execution plans out of the cache. So the plan might be get evicted out of the cache, and you might not even find the plan. Sometimes you need to run the query again to see the plan in the plan cache, and it gets flushed out on every SQL server restart. But with the query store, it retains the data based upon your cleanup policy. Like if you want to clean up like 30 days, 90 days, it depends upon how you set up, it will retain the data. And plan cache, it will store the latest plans only, but query store, it will collect the plans over time. And with the plan cache, it gets evicted. Like I mentioned, the least recently used plans will be get evicted. But with the query store, it doesn't depend upon the plan cache at all. Like it will only collect the data, and every couple of minutes, once it collects the data, again, the data is collected um, in the memory, and then it will be flushed out to the disk based upon the flush out intervals. The flush out interval is set while you are configuring the query store. We are going to talk about that. But as soon as this flush out interval reaches, all the collected information in the memory will be flushed out to disk. It won't get evicted, right? It will be saved in the disk. Difficult to know why the plan has changed when you are using just relying on the plan cache. But by using the query store, it is very useful by looking at those graphical user, by using those graphs, and by using those reports. It is very useful to find the uh, troublesome problems like problematic queries. It is easy to find. So, how query store actually works behind the scenes? There are a couple of steps here. I designed it from the scratch, but I hope you will understand it in a nice way. So let's say there is a query. Let's say there are two queries. There is a query which usually runs, and no matter if the query store is turned on or not, it usually runs, right? And there is this another query where we turn on the query store, and also we took the advantage of forcing the good plan on it, like, and so that it will go ahead and use that only forced good plan. These are the two scenarios, right? Let's put that in our mind while talking on this slide. But let's say there is this query, any query on SQL Server, no matter if it is a query store turn on or off, it is always the SQL engine will always check before moving forward. It will be checking if it is running for the first time or not. And if it is running for the first time, then of course it will go through the compilation and the optimization phases, and it will go ahead and build an execution plan. But what if the query is not running for the first time? It is being running multiple times. Then it will go ahead and check, okay, let me check for the plan in the cache, if there is an active plan in the cache. If there is a plan, then there is a different scenario. If there is a no plan, then it have to go through the compilation and optimization phases again, and then it have to build the plan. But what if there is already a plan? Then all right, it will go ahead and take the plan from the cache and it will move forward. But this highlight, but wait, check for recompilation phase happens when that query is running on a database and have query store turned on. And let's say that query that we are running already have a forced plan on it, right? We forced a plan on it. So at that point in time, it will go ahead and check for the recompilation. Now, what is this recompilation, right? What does it check? So it will go ahead and check. Okay, there might be no plan while I'm running this. Though there is a force plan, doesn't mean that there is already a plan in the cache. There could be no plan in the cache. In that case, it will go ahead and build a new plan. Now, even after the building the new plan, it will go ahead and check for the plan, whether the new build plan or the plan that it just took from the cache, whether it is similar to the forced plan. Remember, we are taking a scenario here that we turned on the query store and we are forcing a plan on this query, and it will go ahead and check whether the new build plan that it generated or the plan that it took from the cache, whether it is same as the force plan. Sometimes it won't be the same. So in that case, it will go through the process of rebuilding the plan again. But this time it will rebuild the plan very much similar like the forced plan. But most of the time, it will have the similar execution plan. If it is not 100% similar, it will be closer to similar because Microsoft developers who worked on this product, who works on this query store product, they tried to make 100% copy, but it was almost impossible for them to get it to the 100% exact copy as the forge plan. So they will mimic similar structure and similar operators and everything, but here and there are few differences, but it will be 98% similar to the force plan. So after choosing the force plan, the query will go to the execution phase. But before going to the execution phase, since we have this query store turned on, there are a couple of things that will get saved in the memory. Once you turn on the query store on a database, there are some stores that get enabled in the SQL Server memory. The SQL Server memory, like for example, the plan store and the runtime stat store. There are two stores that gets enabled. In the plan store, before the query goes to the execution phase, the query text and the query plan, they will be first saved in the plan store. Again, the query is not yet executed, right? This is just a execution plan, which is like estimated execution plan, not the actual. Estimated execution plan is saved. Query text is saved inside the plan store. Now the query goes to the execution phase, right? So after going to the execution phase, the runtime stats that are collected only after the query executes. We can't collect this information before the query executes. The difference between the estimated plan versus the actual plan is this: the runtime stats information. A query plan with the runtime stats on is the actual plan, right? So after the query executes, it can collect that information like runtime stats will be stored inside the runtime stat store, and this information is stored in these memory asynchronously. Like it doesn't have to wait for any confirmation. The next steps will be proceeding while these are still stored. So after this information is collected, there is something known as flush out interval, like I mentioned. Every 15 minutes by default, the collected information in memory will be pushed to the query store schema. And query store schema is nothing but it is always stored in the primary data file of the database where you enable the query store. So again, this information will be flushed out asynchronously as well. It doesn't have to wait for the other processes. Sometimes even before kicking the 15-minute interval, if there is a memory pressure, then all of this collected information could be flushed out to disk ahead of time before hitting the 15-minute interval. So that's how the query store will work behind the scenes. As you see, like while executing, what will happen exactly until that query store data reaches the data file of the database on the disk. So there are a couple of catalog views after the data is saved inside the primary data file of the database. There are some system catalog views enabled when you enable the query store on the database. You can take the advantage of those views to look at the data. You can query them, you can get the data, like what is the query to store, what is the query text of those queries, what are the context settings, and you can see the plans, and you can run some query store runtime stats to see the collected runtime stats data, query store wait stats information, and runtime stats interval as well. So you can mix and match. You can view. There are several queries on Microsoft Docs that you can take advantage of to run these catalog views to get the collected data. Couple of store procedures. You can either remove the plans that are saved in the query store. Specifically, if you want to remove any specific plan, you can remove that, and you can remove the forced plan as well by using the sys query store unforced plan. You can force a plan by using sys query store force plan. That is for the forcing and unforcing the plan. And there are a couple of other store procedures as well that you can use. I have put it here, but if you want to go deep dive into it, the link is down below, the Microsoft Docs you can follow. So there are a couple of benefits. Like I mentioned, the biggest benefit for me is like forcing the plan. We usually force a lot of plans on the critical queries. The developers are not even ready to work on it. Like because like any critical query, if they want to touch, there are too many things involved. Like vendors doesn't allow to touch the query. They say like no, you can't make any changes to those critical queries. They run these many times, those many times. And even sometimes when we say like there is a performance thing going on here, we need to definitely work on it, they will suggest like to increase the capacity on the server, but they are not ready to change the queries, right? In those scenarios, forcing and unforcing is the best option because you do not touch the query itself. All you are doing is like you are working behind the scenes on the execution plan side, not at the query side. So you can take the advantage of that, and you can identify the regressions between the plans. You can quickly fix the non-optimal plan usage, like I mentioned, by using force and unforce. But you can take the advantage of performance tuning as well, because there will be several hints that you can find out by using these execution plans. By looking at comparing the execution plans, you will get several idea like where the query is taking a lot of time. Is it CPU, memory, what's going on? You can compare, and you can quickly work on that performance tuning as well. And there are no changes needed to the user applications. That is the biggest thing, or the underlying code of the T-SQL code, right? You most of the time you don't even have to change that while using this query store. And today I would like to talk about a couple of scenarios here specifically. I have several other demos on the other sessions, but today I would like to focus more on these upgrading scenarios. How did I use query store? How did I take the advantage of query store while migrating the databases between the environments? So from SQL Server 2016 to 2019, 2020 to 2025, or even 2017, there is an advantage You can create a baseline by using the query store. You can capture the baselines. So I'm going to talk about that, as well as I was like talking and talking about plan forcing. I'm going to show you a scenario about plan forcing, and also the if you go one step ahead of plan forcing, there is something known as automatic plan correction, which is introduced in 2017 and only on enterprise edition, right? If you are on standard, you can't use it. If you're in any other editions, you can't use it. But if you're on Azure SQL database, or if you're on enterprise edition from 2017 and above, you can take the advantage of automatic plan correction, where you don't take any action. Like SQL Server, the query store will go ahead and regularly monitor your queries, and it will automatically force and unforce the plans based upon the history of the data, based upon um, based upon the like how long the query has been running, how many times it has been running. It will capture that information and make the decisions, and it will also give you the information why it took the decision, and it will automatically force the last good plan. So upgrade scenario, um, whenever you upgrade a SQL Server database, right? Let's say from SQL Server 2016 to 2019. On SQL Server 2016, you might have query store enabled or not enabled. But after after you migrate that to, let's say, 2019 or 2017, let's say, after you migrate that database from 2016, you still put the database in the older compatibility mode only. You will not change the compatibility mode. And then you will enable the query store, and you will collect all the queries. You will let the queries run, let it run, let it run, let it run until you run almost all the queries. And then once you think like, okay, I have been running for 15 days on this bigger database. Now let me go ahead and turn it off, and then change the compatibility mode to 2019, so that I can go ahead and see the performance of 2019 database. And but still I have the data of how my query used to run on 2016 environment, because I already collected the query store information while it was still on the 2016 compatibility mode. Then you can easily find out any hiccups going on 2019 compatibility mode. This happened to me at least a couple of times. After migrating, most of the times the queries run perfectly, but there are some critical queries that were performing very badly. But after that happens, I immediately can go back to see that already collected data on 2016, how it used to perform, right, on the same exact platform on 2019 server. But when it used when it was working, like how it was working on 2016 compare mode. So I used to compare, and I used to do that. So let's go ahead and see that in the demo. Before going to plan forcing and all of that, I can show you my demo here. So I know I went through a lot of slides, but I thought like those slides and that information is really important to know before moving further. So I would like to show you first. The first demo is like how to actually configure the query store. It's not like you turn it on and that's it, we are done. But there are like at least couple of settings that you have to know definitely, and what does each of those mean? Because if you do not configure it correctly, the 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 query store might blow away so quickly, and your query store might go into the read-only mode if you do not perform this configuration well. So let's take the SQL Server 2016 here, and I would like to use AdventureWorks database here. So let me see if we have, yeah, here is the database, 2016 database. So if you just want to enable the query store, right, you can just say alter database name, set query store is equal to on, and there are a couple of operation modes here. read write, read only, couple of options there. But if you just want to read write, like read as well as write information into the query store, you do operation mode as read write. But instead of like doing it here, I would like to show you how it looks like in the database once you turn on, right? So I already turned it on, but let me go ahead and turn it on here. So once it is turned on, you can go ahead and refresh and see the query store. So there is this query store folder, right? But it gets enabled only after you turn the query store on. But you can see you can also directly turn on the database level by going into the properties of the database here. After going to the properties of the database, you see there is this last option on the left side called query store. And here you can see like the operation mode read write. Now, if you want to turn it on, you can easily turn it on from here, like read write. So there are this read write, read only, and off. Of course, off means it is not turned on. Read write is like, okay, go ahead and read the information as well as enter the information into the query store as my queries run, right? But read only is like you won't write anything into the query store anymore. It will only read the queries, read the force plan information. It will use that force plan information and all of that, but it can't write anything. And there are a couple of more options here if you see, like flush out interval, what is this, like maximum plan for query, all of that. We are going to talk about that. But one of the other thing that I would like to mention here is the um, query store capture mode. Now there are different options here, right? The first option, if you see, there is all in SQL Server 2016 and in SQL Server 2017, all is the default mode. But that is a bad thing if you put it at all. Like if you are in SQL Server 2016 or 2017 and you are using Query Store, please go ahead and change that to auto if you are in all, because all is a default mode and you do not want to put all, because if you put all, even the queries that you don't even bother about, those are the queries that are also captured in here. You do not want that. And auto mode is a mode where SQL Server, Microsoft has decided couple of threshold values in there, internal threshold values of like how many times a query have to run, or like how much CPU threshold it have to hit to enter into the query store. That is an internal information. It's not been released out there in Microsoft Docs, but that will be taken care of by engine automatically if you put that in auto mode. So it will basically filter out all the insignificant data. And by default, from 2019 and above, auto is the default mode. So if you are using 2016 or 2017, go and change that to auto. And if you are using none is like it won't capture anything, but it will still read the information, all the information that is there, it will still read it. And custom mode is something which have been, I think it's been released from 2019 as 2019 as well. So custom mode is something where um, you can go ahead and mention like, okay, how many times my query have to run, or like how much CPU threshold it have to reach for it to be captured inside the query store. That is how you create those custom capture policies. You can do that as well. But all the rest of the other options, I'm going to show you in the in the T-SQL. But here down, before I close this window, if you look at the pie diagrams here, you can see like per database, like it will show you like this is a database of AdventureWorks. So it will show you like how much it's allocated and how much query store is being used, how much is the available space, and what it is, how much is being used, right? So let me cancel that and show you rest of the other options. It's very, very important. I can't tell you how important it is to know what each of these um, mode means, right? So operation mode, we already discussed about it, read write, read only mode and off. But the cleanup policy is always 30 days by default. It is like once the 30 days has been reached, it will go ahead and delete the unused data, right? If you have a forced plan information, it won't touch that data. It will only delete the unused data. Flush data first flush interval in second is 15 minutes by default. Like I mentioned, all the data that is being captured in the memory is flushed out to disk every 15 minutes. Sometimes it can trigger even before that based upon like what is going on with the memory, any pressure on the memory. Maximum storage limit, um, I put as 500 MB here, but it could be 1 GB, it could be 2 GB. You can put as much as you want, but I will suggest you put 1 GB to 2 GB at the beginning and then see how it works, and and see how it works as per your data and other settings, right? And interval length in minutes is every 15 minutes a new interval will kick in, meaning like let's say there is the interval 0, it will start with 0. Every 15 minutes, no matter how many times a query runs, it will only get one record in there, because otherwise it will blow up the query store. So it will accumulate, the cumulative data will be stored in a record, right? One query, one record only, and cumulative information is stored. So every 15 minutes, it starts with 0, 1, 2, like it will go through that phase, like intervals. Size blaze cleanup mode is auto, like I mentioned. There are several options, but please make sure it is put as auto. Oh no, I was talking about the query capture mode as auto, but this size blaze cleanup mode is totally different. So if you put that as auto, there are only two options, either auto or off. If you turn it off, which is a very bad thing to do, off, it will go ahead and fill 100% of query store. It will go ahead and completely fill. And once 100% reaches, the query store will go to the read only mode. So instead of that, that is a bad thing, right? If it goes to the read only mode, it won't capture any more information. So if you are in off mode, please go ahead and change that to auto, because if you put it on auto, once the query store data reaches 90%, it will automatically clean up behind the scenes, automatically clean up, and it will reduce that to 80%. Again, this is a single thread process, but still it will make sure like it will clean up the data so that it won't have to go to the read only mode. And we have discussed about this capture mode and maximum plans per query. The by default it is 200, but do you really need 200? Think about it. And if you need it, go ahead and put it. But if you do not need it, you can change that as well. And weight stats information has been released from 2017 and above. So if it is 2017, why not go ahead and capture that information as well. So I'll go ahead and enable that. And what we will do is like I put everything in it, like whatever I have um, talked about, I have put neatly in this written format. I can share these slides with you and the demos with you, so you can go ahead and use it. So after you enable it, you wanted to go ahead and see all the options by using, by using these query store options, the views, the system views, right? So I'll go ahead and run this on the AdventureWorks, and you can neatly see in the table format, you can query it and see, hey, what did I choose? Like what all the options I have. You can go ahead and see what are the interval length in minutes, what are my threshold dates, what is the size. You can either see through graphical user interface, or you can either query it, right? So that is how you configure it. Be very careful and think a lot about like what are your mm, needs, what are your capture needs and all of that before turning it on. And let's go ahead and see the root cause analysis. um, So how we have enabled it. So and see if there is any data in there because I have been running some queries. So here are all the reports that are enabled here. So there are multiple things. If you can go ahead and see if there are any request queries, you can see in there. But my favorite one that I would like to talk about, if I talk about all of those reports, it takes a lot of time. So let me focus on the main important thing that I usually use, right? Top resource consuming queries is what I use. And I will also use the track queries. Um, and I will use queries with forced plan. These are the top three things that I use. But let's see the top resource consuming queries. I'll double click on it to open. And if you see here, this is like a kind of a chart here, but if I hover my mouse over there, it will show me the query ID, how much total duration, what is the execution count, and what is the plan count. And you can neatly see the plan as well. If you hover your mouse over there, it it shows it as a little circle over there. But if you hover your mouse, this is a query and this is a plan related to the query, and what are all the stats. You can see everything here like total duration, average duration, and all of that. And you can see the execution plan here as well. This is by default view, right? But there is also like metric over here, like different metrics. Duration, or do you want to see by duration? Do you want to see by CPU time? You can go ahead and filter out on all of these metrics and statistics as well. Like, do you want to see average, maximum, minimum, standard deviation, all of that. But this is kind of like not my favorite view. So I would like to click on this to go to the uh, in the grid format where I can clearly see the query ID as well as the plan ID here. I can I can see the query. I can hover my mouse. Again, I run the bulk of queries before starting this session, but my interval has kicked in. I have placed my flush out intervals as well as my cleanup policy such a way that it won't save a lot of data, but I can always filter out the data and see it. But let's go ahead and see a little bit more information on here. Like you can also filter out um, the data here. Let me see if I can see that here. Um, there is an option here where you can filter out. Um, Not that. Let me close this one. I have a hard time in finding that option here now. There is a way where you can um, actually filter out that option. Oh, why it's not showing up? Am I missing something here? Okay, I forgot where exactly I can get that. It's so weird. I forgot where that icon is here. But let's put that aside for now and go through our demo. Okay, this is a demo, right? So, okay. So now I would like to run couple of queries and couple of queries, how the ad hoc queries will be collected and how we can view the data. So these are, let me free up the proc cache. Do not do this in production again. So let me go ahead and um, run couple of ad hoc queries here, not the stored procedures. This is one of the stored procedure though. I would like to run one of these ad hoc queries and one of the stored procedure, just a random queries I would like to run on this database. And I would like to come here, refresh the data to refresh and see. So here I have executed couple of queries here. Um, But if you see the ad hoc queries that I executed, I think this was the ad hoc queries that I executed. Yeah, on the table, right? If you see here, it customer or customer data underscore order date here. Yeah, this is the one. It has a new object ID here, and sales header data I have been executing. This is a store procedure. It also got the plan ID. Everything looks the same. Everything looks similar here, like the query on the left side, object ID and the query ID here, and the query, if you hover your mouse here, the query will always look like the parameterized format here. But if you hover your mouse here, this is a store procedure, but it won't show the exact store procedure query here. It will show as a parameterized query, and it will not store the exact parameter value it executed. It won't show that data here. Um, Now, if I go ahead and view, this is my plan cache right now, like the procedure cache. If I execute this one, it looks a little bit different. Like if you see in the previous window in the query store, the same sales header data showed as a parameterized view. But if you see in the plan cache, it clearly shows the exact query of the store procedure. Now that is the difference, one of the difference between the plan cache and the query store. Here it will always show the parameterized view, but the actual query is being shown in the plan cache. And the other thing that I would like to show you is like, what if I delete the procedure cache now? Go ahead and delete it, everything, right? Now, if I rerun again the plan cache, you won't see anything, right? It's cleared out. Now, clearing out the plan cache, will it clear out the query store? Let's refresh. Nothing will be cleared out because those are the two exact copies, right? Two different things. Sorry, not exact copies, two different things. The query stored data is different from the plan cache. If you delete the plan cache information, doesn't touch the query store data at all. Now what I'll do, I will go ahead and clear out the query store. How do you clear out? Alter database name, set query store clear will actually clear out everything from the query store. If you refresh, it's already cleared. That's how you'll clear out the data. Now what I'll do is I'll run the same exact queries here. If you see a different parameter though, I'm just searching on sales order detail and large table and two different parameters here, and I'm running two different times, two different parameters, just a random ad hoc queries here. If you refresh, if you observe the same exact query, two different parameters created two different two different uh, uh, two different records here with the two different query ID here. If you observe, now why is that? It's the same exact query, right? But because these are ad hoc queries, even a single change, if there is a parameter change or if there is a space in the query, or if you added a comment in there, even a space can create a new query ID. So query store is not that good with the ad hoc queries, right? Let's say like I created this, right? And what if I just added a space here and then I executed same exact query with 835 parameter over again here. And if I come here and then refresh, it will generate a different query ID. So if you are having a lot of ad hoc queries running on your database, if you have that workload, right, you need to make sure number one to go ahead and change the capture mode to auto, right? All you do not want all, but even then, if these ad hoc queries are still being captured, you can go ahead and use couple of queries from Microsoft Docs. Um, there is a query in the Microsoft Doc where you can capture that query, put it in a SQL agent job, and you can run that so that that job will take care of clearing out these ad hoc queries behind the scenes so that it won't fill up the query store. Now, what I will do is instead of using those ad hoc queries, I am simply just searching on a product ID. Instead of like running these random, um, you know, um, with the parameter values. How about I convert the same query into a stored procedure, right? There is nothing much big thing going on here. All I did was like added a product ID, and again, this recompile option, this is just my demo. That's why I added that just to make sure my demos work. But you do not have to worry about this option. And I would like to go ahead and create this store procedure, the same exact, but this time it is a parameterized format, like with the parameter value. Now I'll go ahead and clear out both my procedure cache and query store will be cleared completely. Now I did that just so that we can start fresh here. Now I'll go ahead and run the store procedures for the first time with the 942 parameter after I created it, right? And then 707 parameter. Now I'll go ahead and execute that with the with actual execution plan here. Execute and see the results. The first one generated around like 385 records if you see at the bottom, and the second one was like 237,000 records. It's way too different, right? Two different things here. Now let's see the execution plan. The first one choose index seek and key lookup, but because I used recompile option in there, it went ahead and it created a clustered index scan here. Index seek key lookup and clustered index, two different execution plans got created. Now will that show here? Definitely. If you see here, there are two different plans for the same exact store procedure because there is something known as parameter sensitive um, uh, problem going on here. With one parameter, it took about like, if you see, so total CPU time. Usually, I use the metric CPU time instead of duration. So you can see how much CPU time it took for this plan ID one, which took index seek and key lookup. It took like 4.46 milliseconds. But if you see the other one, which produced like 230,000 records, it took about like 902 milliseconds. Lot of variation, right? Now, what if there is this one parameter which produced like 230,000 records is the bad parameter, and most of the other parameter values will only produce like 300 to 400 records. Clearly, this is a parameter sensitive problem. Now, how do I resolve this? Now, what if a developer come to me and say like, hey, my query was running perfectly fine, but what's going on? I don't know what happened, but it it is performing very bad now. I have the ability to come here and see like I can ask him, hey, what is the store procedure name? And I can come and see the query here, exact query of that store procedure. I can figure out the object ID. I can figure out the query ID, and I can go ahead and see, okay, now I got the point. The current execution plan is the plan ID 2, which is the problem. But yesterday, when it was performing well, the plan ID was 1. Now, how about I know that most of my plans are supposed to be plan 1. That is where we can take the advantage of plan forcing, right? Now it is very simple to click on the plan ID 1, go ahead and click on this force plan, and then go ahead and say like, do you want to force this plan 1 for the query ID 3? Yes. If I click yes, it will go ahead and force it. Now I will show you how to do it from here. But before I do it from here, graphical user interface, forcing a plan from here is an easy option, but for you to capture the information through your monitoring tools, if you are doing like if you're capturing like auditing or something like that, it is better to go ahead and do it through the store procedure here. Execute store procedure force plan query ID is equal to 1, because if you see here, the query ID is not 1, the query ID is 3. So you need to change that here. All you need is the query ID and the plan ID. If you see here, we would like to force the plan ID 1 because that is most of our queries uses, right? So I will go ahead and run this one. The plan ID is correct, query ID is correct. So let me go ahead and execute that. Now, after executing that, if you come back and refresh this, You can see the plan ID. There is a little tick mark over here where the plan ID 1 is currently being forced. Tick mark meaning that is being forced. Now, what will happen if I go ahead and execute with a different parameter value, not 707, not 942, but a different one after we force the plan. Now, will it generate a new plan again, or will it go ahead and use the same forced plan? Let's see. Let me go ahead and execute with the actual execution plan on and then execute it. Now, the results are 8,470 records. Okay, now let's go to the execution plan. It looks like it used the force plan, but how do I confirm that it is using the force plan, right? It uses index seek and key lookup. Now, how do you confirm is by going to the properties of this um, operator, the select operator. You can see if you scroll down all the way, if you see the use plan option is true here, meaning like whenever you see the use plan is true, that means like it is using the forced plan. That's how you can identify it is being used. But if you don't see that option, use plan option is not there, that means like it is using, or it generated a new plan which is not the forced plan, right? So if you see here, let me put this. And if you see here, uh, if you refresh here, it won't generate a new plan because it is currently being forced. That's why it did not generate a new plan. Now that's how the force plan actually work. That is the advantage of force plan. Now what if I change the query store into read only mode? Will it still uses the force plan? No, let us go ahead and see. I'll put the operation mode into read only. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and clear out the cache. And I will go ahead and rerun this again. Right. Now it produced the results. Again, 237,000 records. Now it is still showing in the seek and key lookup. Now let's confirm it is using the forced plan here. Now it still shows the use plan as true, which is good. It means like it is still using the force plan. Now if you come here and refresh, it is still using, it is nicely using the force plan. If you see here, right, the tick mark is still there, and you can still use it, like it is still being used. So that's how, even though it goes to the read only mode automatically, or you put the into the read only mode for whatever reason, like you are like, okay, I got the enough information, I will go ahead and put it in the read only mode. It still go ahead and use the force plan information. Now I'll go ahead and turn the query, even like if you turn off the query store, then you can't use any of that information, right? But I don't want to turn it off right now. But let me go ahead and show you the other demo of how I used several times on the migration scenarios. Like, let's say I'm using a 2016 database here, but this time I'm using a wide world importers data warehouse database. Let's see if we have in here. Yeah, it's still in this database. Let's see which version here. I forgot which version is this one. Server data version. So it's 2019, not 2016, it is 2019. So what I will do is, let's say um, we have a database in 2016. I migrated that to 2019, right? So I already migrated here. But what I will do is like, I'll go ahead and do the free proc cache here. And what I will do is, after I migrated, I will make sure the database is in 110 compatibility mode, the old compatibility mode. And let me execute that. Okay, what is the error again? Uh, what is that? The database does not exist. What? Okay, maybe I'm connecting to a different server. Yes, I am. Oh boy. Okay. Uh, I'm going ahead and putting the database in the old compatibility mode, and I will make sure I enable the query store for sure, right? I have to make sure the query store is enabled and it is still pointing to the old compatibility mode, and I will go ahead and, I mean, this is for my demo again, but assume that this store procedure is already existing in the database when we migrated, right? This is for the demo, the same exact similar kind of query that I put it in the store procedure. All that it is doing is like it is selecting and doing some inner join and using the quantity parameter value. I'll go ahead and run this query. I know I'm going over time today. I'll just run this demo and I will stop there and see if anybody have any problem. But let me go ahead and clear out the proc cache and query store here, clear it out. And now I will run my workload. Okay. Now I'll run my entire workload. Just I'm collecting this um, single store procedure. Let's say that is all I have in this database workload. Now I'll go ahead and if you go ahead and to the database query store and top resource consuming queries. Now let's say we already collected all the information, right? We just executed one, but let's imagine that's all we have here. And now I'll go ahead and change the compatibility from 110 to 130. Yes, we changed that, and now I'll go ahead and run the same exact store procedure again. And let's go back here to refresh and see if there is a different execution plan. Now, if you see the plan ID 1, this is the plan ID 1. Plan ID 1. Plan ID 1 used to take, when it was in old compatibility mode of 110, it used to take 33.79 milliseconds. And the second one, it takes 17.81 milliseconds. That is a very good improvement, right? You can go ahead and play with all the duration and CPU time as well. Even in the CPU time, if you see the plan ID 2 is performing better than the previous plan ID 1, right? Plan 81 was when it used to run on 20, like on 110 compatibility mode. So that is how you can, now it is performing well, but what if in a reverse happen? Like you can go ahead and compare between the plans. Now, how do you compare between the plans? You go ahead and click on shift button, click on both the plans here, and you have this option here to compare, compare plans. If you click on that, you can easily see the difference between both the plans here. You can see, you can compare here and see like what is the difference, what is the cached plan size, what is the compiled CPU size. Wherever you see not is equal to, that is where you can find the difference. You can scroll down and see what is the information, like all the information you can compare and you can see the differences, and then you can decide which one to force and what to do, what next steps to take, all of that, right? That is other demo that I took the advantage. Before going into the last demo, I know I went over time. I'm really sorry about that, but I would like to know if I can go ahead and show you the automatic plan correction demo as well.
Yes. So
Awesome.
people know that it's being recorded. So those who are not able to stay till the end, they know that it's being recorded. They,
Yeah,
they
this is a
can
last demo,
watch.
so we are almost completing here. So let's go ahead and see the demo. So this demo is next level to the plan forcing, right? This is like an automated plan correction that will happen behind the scenes. So once you have to enable that though, if you are having the enterprise edition, you have to enable that automatic plan correction. If you are in Azure SQL database, this is automatically enabled there. So here I'm using Azure SQL database. I am already connected to that. If you see here, now I'm using AdventureWorks database and set automatic tuning. Force last good plan is equal to on is how you turn on the automatic plan correction. So that's how I turn it on. And let's say we already have the same exact store procedure when we used to work on AdventureWorks on-prem, the same exact store, uh, the query that I put it in the store procedure. Now I'm going ahead and I'm running that. And then now what I will do is I will go ahead and clear out my procedure cache and query store before running anything. Um, User does not have permission. I don't know why it said that, but let me go ahead and do that again. Hmm. Okay, that's fine. If we don't, if we can't do that, that's fine. But now, what I will do is like I will go ahead and refresh the database, and I'll go to the query store. I will open the top resource consuming query again, and none of them is recorded yet. So let's put it here, and then go ahead and um, there is a query. Yeah, here it is. So now what I will do is I'll go ahead and run the run the workload right now, because this is a automatic plan correction. We are not forcing anything, but we are running a workload in such a way that query store will automatically take the actions for us, right? Now let me go ahead and execute this 50 times. Execute the sales information um, 50 times, and let's come here. Oh, what happened here? Okay, so I think I have to run it in the database. All right, and that was the reason why it didn't allow me. Okay, now it allowed me to clear out the cache. So I'll go ahead and run this store procedure for 50 times. And let's go here and refresh. So if you see, the circle is a little bit bigger because we executed in a batch, right? 50 times. That's why the circle is bigger. So you have seen it generated a plan here. Now what I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and clear out my cache. Again, don't do this in production. This is just to show you very quickly how the automatic plan correction works. Okay, now we are using a parameter sensitive here 707, but this time I'm running it in a different workload. We are creating a regression here, meaning like the records, the amount of records is different. There is a lot of skew in the data, so we are running it multiple times to go ahead and see if it will automatically force a plan. Did it force a plan? Yes, it did, because it found a regression. It found a lot of difference between two execution plans. It had to take a decision. So the decision is it went ahead and it forced the plan ID 1 because the plan ID 2 is clustered index scan, lot of complete scan. It felt like no, no, no. This particular plan is running very quick because it is just doing index seek and keylookup, and I had enough workload because the workload was such a way that the first one executed 50 times, the second one 10 times. So it is the right time for me to go ahead and compare and take the decision. So it felt the first one, which took less amount of resources, is the good one, and it went ahead and it forced the plan. But at the same time, it will also show you what was the reason and why did it take that action. And that you can find it out by running this system view, sysdmdb tuning recommendations. If you run that query, it will go ahead and give you like, okay, this is the force plan, last good plan, and the reason why I went ahead and changed that is because the average CPU time has changed from 3.55 milliseconds to 1298 milliseconds. That is a huge difference, and that was the reason why I made sure I went ahead and I changed that last good plan. And if you scroll for the details here and copy these details and bring those details into this window, if you see here, it will also give you the exact script it executed. Sorry about that. If you see here, the exact script that it executed to force that particular plan. The query ID 12, plan ID 1. If you see here, the query ID 12, and the plan ID is 1. If you see here, there are two plans and it choose plan number 1. So you can either get those details from there, right? Like you will also get those details like, okay, why did it choose and all of that. So that's my another demo and how you can take the advantage of automatic plan correction. Now let me go back to my slide and I have placed the exact details in here, like what is a plan forcing. It is just like a use plan query hint, but it is you are not changing any underlining code. You are using the plan forcing by using a store procedure designed within the query store, right? You can force, you can unforce the plan, and you can take the advantage without even touching the underlying code. Automatic plan correction, it is only enterprise edition only, and you can SQL Server will continuously monitor for any regressions and it will adjust accordingly and it will make sure it is always forcing the last good plan. Couple of best practices: never ever drop and create, because create those objects that you are working on and using query store on. Like if you are forcing a plan on a store procedure and anytime you change the code, never drop the code and recreate, because anytime you drop the store procedure and recreating, or any of the objects that you are using within the query store and forcing a plan on the top of it, if you drop and recreate, it will generate a new ID. You do not want that, because the plan that you force is on a different ID, right? Now, when you drop and create, it will generate a new ID. So you always want to use alter instead of drop and create. Avoid renaming the databases. Of course, it's a very rare scenario, but it will destroy all the queries with the force plan. um, Trace flag 7745 and trace flag 57752 are very important. Like again, these two trace flags are enabled by default in SQL Server 2019 and above. But what does this trace flag does is like, whenever you are using query store, there are memories related to query store active in the memory, right? So anytime you want to restart the queries, restart the SQL Server, all the captured information in the memory have to flush to the disk before the SQL Server restart. Sometimes, depending upon the size of your database and size of your query store, it can take time. So if you do not want that on your production critical databases, you need to enable the trace flag 7745, so that it will you are saying that okay, anything in the memory, please get rid of it, I am totally fine with it, but restart the SQL Server immediately. That is trace flag 7745. But 7752 is while you restart the SQL Server. When you restart the SQL Server, again, couple of system query store information have to be flushed, have to be pushed into the memory before the database comes online, right? But if you do not want that, if you first want your database to be online and then move the query store information into the memory, enable this trace flag 7752, because until the data moved into the memory, the query store data into the memory, your query store will be in the read only mode, but your database will be online and all the transactions could be happening immediately. And points to remember again, maximum plans per query is set to 200 by default. But if you want to change that, you can change that. The maximum storage size, if it reaches, query store goes to the read only mode. And that is the reason why you have to put it in the auto mode. The cleanup mode is auto mode, because once it reaches 90%, it will go ahead and clean up automatically until it reaches 80%. Auto mode, it will avoid ad hoc queries, insignificant queries. This is for the capture mode. So always make sure your capture mode is auto, and it is recommended and it is by default on all the SQL Server 2019 databases as well as on SQL Server databases as well. So without any further ado, we can close this session, but these are the resources. And if you would like to know more about Query Store, there are several videos of me giving the presentation on YouTube. You can search by my name and space Query Store. You can find those things. But I would like to really thank Michael and for being patient, and to every single attendee over here to be patient with me. I went over time, but I thought this is a good sharing with you all. So I would like to really thank you all for listening.
And we are also very grateful. I could see even from the questions and people staying back that it's a learning opportunity, and it's never, like you said, you've had to do like 8 hours on this for some people. So it's understandable that it's a lot, and there is also much you can. Otherwise, if you compress it too much, it's become like very difficult for us to follow. So thank you very much. And for those who are asking where they can access the recording, to be on our website, and let's see if I can give you the YouTube link directly. But the truth is that on that website, you will let me see if I can just get, you will be able to access. Okay, great. I've gotten the YouTube link. You're able to access past sessions and future ones, and this one I usually try to put it there within a week. So we have some questions. I'm going to start to
Absolutely.
read them in the sequence they came.
Hmm.
So the first one is from Abishant. I'll read it exactly as they have it. So this was when, oh no, the first one is actually from me.
You.
So it is there any reason why someone would choose the read mode and not the read write? Because it felt like the read write, one wants like the record, right?
Absolutely. So read write mode is when you want to really capture all the information, right? To see like how my queries are performing. But sometimes you don't want to put in read only mode, and you don't want to do that because you want to get more details on your queries, how they are running. But um, sometimes the queries, sometimes you might be seeing some issues with like, oh, my query store is filling up. I can't add more data. I can't increase the space in the query store. And now enough, we already forced a couple of queries, and almost like critical queries are already captured, and we have that information, and we have the force plan enabled already, so we don't mind to just read the data out of it and or not write anything to it. That is when you choose read mode. But I have never seen a place where like I want read only mode. No,
Uh,
people will put it in read write mode until it is really necessary.
oh, great, thanks. Okay. And so continuing the question from Habishant, I'm reading as they have it. In the Q&A, okay, which is what she's doing. Could you re-explain the how query store works internally slide, that slide that you have, the flow chart? Specifically the part, so when an execution plan is already in the plan cache, when does it still go through the recompilation check? And in what situation does it just take the plan directly from the cache?
That's awesome. So usually when the query store is on, and if even though your query store is on and even though you forced a plan, it will always take the plan from the cache only. But the recompilation phase is just to check whether, okay, this plan is currently being forced, right? The plan that I just took from the cache, it will just compare whether it is almost similar to the forced plan. Now, if it is totally different, there are situations when it is totally different, because there might be scenarios where like some people, without even knowing, they will drop the indexes where, on the plan where they forced it. There is this forced plan, but without knowing, a developer might go ahead and drop the index, and that index might be used in that forced plan. In that situation, SQL Server have no clue what's going on. Like, these people are forcing a plan. Now I have to go ahead and use that plan, but the index is not there. Now what do I do? Okay, well, I can't fail the query, so I'll go ahead and generate a new plan. Now that new plan could be totally different from the force plan. So it will try to mimic the, it will try to create similar plan, which is closer to the force plan. That's when it will do that. But no matter if it is force or not, the plan is always picked up from the plan cache. If there is
Oh,
no plan in the cache, that's a different scenario. It will go ahead and create, recompile, and then create. But That is how the SQL engine works. I hope I answered the question.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the person will say yes if they are still here. And so James said they're interested in the demo material.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
I'll share the
Then
link with you all in a minute.
Okay, then Sabine, our readers, they have it here. Hello, Deepti. Thank you so much for your valuable time and sharing your insights regarding Query Store. It was really helpful. I am an aspiring professional. I'm an aspiring data professional. I enjoy writing SQL queries and solving business plans. I am currently looking for opportunity as you have already worked with a lot of experienced data professionals. So the question is now, what skill, technical or non-technical, is most important for you if you are to select a data professional for your team?
Oh, that's an awesome question. I usually sit on the interview panels, and so whenever you are applying for a job, I sincerely suggest you to focus more on the description part of the job posting. What they have mentioned in there and what is it aligning in your experience, that is the number one thing that I would like to see. Because no matter if you have like 100 different types of knowledge, 100 different platforms you have knowledge, they are only looking for one part of that knowledge, right? And they are only looking for like, are you compatible to that 1%? And even though you have like too much knowledge on other things, they are not going to bother about it. So what I will do is like focus more on the description part. And if you have knowledge on that particular whatever they are describing, try to put as much as you can in your resume, so that that will align to the description of what they are doing. Like, do not put something which you don't know, right? Like, just because they mentioned it doesn't mean that you have to put it on the resume. Because like, they will go through your resume and they will ask questions based upon that, and at the time we will be panicked. So I will always put sincerely whatever I know. But you don't have to know everything what they put, because sometimes HR will be like, they put every damn, they put our language in SQL DBA job, they put which is like, oh my, I can't start on that, Michael, because like it's ridiculous, you know. So I go through that, and I will prepare a lot in for my interview process, only the description they are providing. If they are if they are adding lot of stupid stuff in there, I will just ignore all of that. But I will focus on more on what is my experience and what are they asking. Wherever the two meet, I will prepare a lot about that. Because in the interview questions, they always ask like, okay, we need this, do you have that? But they don't say like, what do you have and what do we want. They don't do in a reverse way, they only do it in a one way. So whenever you prepare those sort of examples, like, go ahead and like, if they are mentioning one point, like let's say high availability, we want people to know high availability stuff, and you already did high availability. Try to remember like, what are the top 5 challenges you placed in that. If you don't remember, go ahead and use the chat gpt, like top 5 critical issues that you might face in high availability, and learn, and then try to produce such kind of examples in the interview. I think that from there, if you start, I think that will be a great way to start your interview process. I hope I hope
Great.
I answered your question.
Even for me, I'm taking insights that I should care more about what the ruler said, this is the problem they are looking to solve and what's important, and make sure that not just put in everything that I have certification or experience on. I try and focus more on putting the things that shows that I've done this thing, I have these skills and I've delivered on those typical needs, and that typically, and like you said, it is what they need, and they look, do you have what they need? So for me, I think for anybody that is on this is a very good way to go about getting a better result at interview. So I will go to the next set. So James has been really helpful. So when you asked about uh time and then should we do the last demo, he was like, yes, 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 let's go to it. So that's the yes he put there. And then he's asking, are there any times where you wouldn't want to use the automatic plan correction?
Yes, um, that is a very good question. So
We lost your audio. I think she notices that she's able to fix it. Let me see while she's trying to hopefully get back on. If I can see other questions when you get oh, someone remembers the 2 a.m. analogy. Okay. Hey, Chief Rashid. Okay. Hopefully when she's back, I'm able to throw those last questions at her. And for Habi, your question about the recording, I've answered that. And let's just give one more minute and see if she notices that she's her network has dropped. Video reconnect showing here as if the video is reconnecting. So I don't actually have a phone number to ring her on. So well, as we know, we are almost at the end of the session. So it's not like we're gonna miss anything. So maybe she's dropping and reconnecting. Normally at this stage I turn off the recording, but I don't know if the answer she would give would be some things that people watching the recording would also be interested in. So I'll just leave it on. And if it's a case, luckily people watching recording, you can fast forward. That's the beauty of record. You can fast forward to when she's back, if we're able to get her back. And let me see if I'm able to message her on LinkedIn so that she notices that. Well, I know she would. It's just it depends on what is the cost. If it's an easy fix, then for sure she's able to. Oh, so she said she's already aware that she's dropped. Uh, I'll just let her know that we are still here waiting. Uh, join if okay, right? If possible. All right. So uh, let's see. You could even if from your phone, even if from your phone.
can you hear me?
Oh, I was even
No,
just
no.
typing to you
I
that
joined
if
from my
perfect.
my phone, so my
I was
power
just
is
giving
gone.
that
So I can,
idea so I can read the
yeah,
question.
yeah,
So
I
let
can
me
answer
read it.
those questions.
Okay, great, please. Yes, yes. Did you get the one I last said? So that one was from James. Are there any times where you wouldn't want to use the automatic plan correction?
Yeah, yeah. So, if like if it was me, I don't much bother about like automatic plan correction because sometimes our developer environments don't support enterprise, and we always want to put that
Um,
environments in sync all the time. Like, okay, how is it working on my developer environment and then SIT environment and in production, right? So if you are using an automatic plan correction only in production and not in the lower environment, that is a problem. So
yeah.
so in that scenario, I will not use it. And sometimes, not all the time not all the time the clients agree to these automated corrections things, because they will say like, "Ha, we don't want to let these automate things going on. We want to decide which plan should be run. We want to pick and choose which plan to be run." Because and the other thing is with the automatic plan correction is, oh, the it will always choose the last good plan. Let's say there was a good plan, but then it forced a plan, right? But then a even more better plan got generated. If it a even more better plan got generated, it will not use the more better plan. It will always force that last good plan only. So in that scenario also, this is not a good option. So you need to think about all of these things.
Great, thanks. And so the next question, I think we have just two more and then one question from the house. I hope that's okay. Like maybe it might take you like 5 minutes. Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay, all right, great. So Bill is asking, when you get the two, so some of us still remember the 2 a.m. analogy, so which means it worked, right? You're helping us to see the big picture is working. And so the question is, when you get the 2 a.m. slow query call with minimal info, what queries do you use with Query Store to locate the troublesome query?
Um, That's a good question. So usually I'll try to find the query ID by the text of that query. By using those query store system views, we can get that information. I didn't have the ability to show it in our demo, but there are several queries out there on Google where you can find like, hey, find the query ID by using this text of that query, right? You can attach the like operator where you can put that string in there and find the query ID, and from that query ID you can come to the query store and find the query ID of that particular query and then go from there.
Perfect. And so Rashid, uh, it's a please. So it's like I'll read the question, but I think it ties to like how they can connect to all of the environments that you share knowledge on. So I'm a novice and I need your help if you have any mentoring group for DBA I can join. Rashid from Lagos, Nigeria.
Mentoring group. There are no mentoring groups currently, but the best way to find a mentor is through these sort of groups that Michael have. Like we are running this meetup, right? So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much sure, Rashid, you are already on meetup. So why won't you search for the Azure data groups? Go ahead and search for in the Google. You can directly
Mm.
get the link. Azure data groups meetup. If you search that, you will directly get the link, and there are about like 260 user groups in the meetup, which are absolutely free, and they are under the umbrella of Microsoft. So there
Oh,
you will
that's true.
find there you will find the plenty of people who are already working in there. And like if you have like any questions, Rashid, if you can always ping me to know more information. But I think that is a very good place where you can start finding those different groups. There you can find similar mindset people, where you can ask like, hey, how are you getting jobs, or like, are you having any new jobs going on, or like, how do I start speaking, or like all of that.
Yeah, I just even shared in the group let me see if I can get a screenshot. I've shared that what you said, that Microsoft community of
Yeah,
meetups where, you know,
no matter where you are, Rashid, doesn't matter, because these
it's
are all
online.
virtual user groups. You don't have to be in person. You can always connect to these meetings. There is several knowledge being shared out there from experts, which are totally free. Trainings going on everywhere. Yeah, that was the exact group that I'm talking about. There are like, look at the
Yeah.
graph, like too many people. Like most of them are online, virtual. There are also in person, but take the advantage of online. You don't have to move away from your room. Mm,
Yeah. So the last question, and we let you go. It's tell us about your journey. So,
mm.
how did you get to be who you are today? Was it like something you've always known from age 5 and you just worked focusedly to achieving it, or it was a lot of curves and twists before you got here?
Oh, life took me several turns when I started my career, right? I was just a naive DBA, women DBA coming from India to do my master's degree in United States, and I I struggled a lot because I'm a
Yeah.
pharmacist. I did my pharmacy in my bachelor's, and I have no clue about computers. So I I never liked pharmacy, so I fought with my father. I said, like, no pharmacy, even though I did pharmacy, I want to change my career. I don't want to listen to you anymore because this is my life. And I took the stand and I applied for United States. But even when I came to United States, they only gave me an opportunity to do my master's in chemistry. But I decided to still fought for my, fought, and then I thought I have to change somehow to the field which I really love. So I applied for different universities in United States and I talked to professors. And I found very good professor. One of the professors said, like, yeah, I will definitely allow you to change your subject to pharmacy, chemistry to computers. And then he gave me the opportunity. That's when I came to know what a computer is, what is a SQL server. But one of my core subject was SQL server, and that's how I really liked and I fell in love with SQL server. And I thought, like, wow, this is awesome, like how to build SQL server, and all of that really inspired me. And after I completed my masters, I went to this coaching. Like, there is a trainer who trained us, and there are about like 60 DBAs who are training, who are about to be trained in a DBA course, right? But they out of 60, 59 are men, and I am the only woman. And I am like, and even my trainer was a man, and he was like, Diti, why won't you go to some small testing, or like, why won't you take it easy? Why don't you take it easy on your career? Right? Why do you want to struggle in your life? Take
Wow.
it easy, because most of the men do all of these tough jobs like DBA, and don't just take it easy. It's a tough job. You need to be on call and you need to go to office sometimes when you have to, this is in the time of 2016. This is in the time of 2016. So he was like, maybe do you have to go to office and stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I said, like, nah, I just love it. I want to stay here.
Yeah.
No matter where it takes me, I don't mind, but I want to work hard. And I got a job as a DBA. I took my own interview. It was very tough. But I found a job, and then days are passing by. But I was just working on my daily DBA job, normal job, but nothing much bigger things going on. But I had a challenge with my manager. He's a toxic manager before, not current manager, but the previous man. I had a toxic manager. He didn't like women being technical. He's not technical, so
Yeah.
he don't like it, and he showed all the stupid, like he literally harassed me just because I was talking to him in technical way. He didn't like it, so he was like, removed me off from all the projects and all of that, and literally forced me to leave the job without
Oh.
them firing me. So I was like, I'm done with this company. But what I did was, like, he removed me all the projects. So I thought, like, okay, you can remove me out of the project in this company, but what if I build something new for myself outside the company? What would you do? And then I started blogging. I literally started blogging before speaking. And then I slowly saw this new stars of data conference where they give the opportunity to new people to speak. So I applied and I prayed not to get selected. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I got selected. So I was like, damn, now what do I do? I don't want to speak. I just applied, but somehow, if you want to grow, you have to
Yeah.
definitely take that leap, and you definitely have to fall down 1,000 times before you stand up once, you know. So I was ready to fall down 1,000 times, which I already fall before even started speaking. So I'm like, there is nothing to lose. I'm already in the ocean. I was already wet. There is nothing to get wet or whatever it is. So I'm already cold and wet. There is nothing to lose. So I thought, like, yeah, let me go ahead and do it. And I did it. I did it once. I did it 10. I did it hundreds times. And
Wow.
I felt like I did it hundred of times, and I felt like, yeah, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm terrible. I fall down terribly. I'll break my teeth, but I will try. I will try. So that's where I thought, like, yeah, you know, if my speaking today, or any session that I give, if it is helping a single person, I'm successful. I feel that as a successful because I am helping myself and also I am helping the other person. There were some instances where people contacted me through LinkedIn and say like, Deepthi, I saw a video of yours on YouTube, um, and I did my interview. I cracked the interview just because of
Yeah.
that video. I cracked the interview and I got a
Job.
job. That is the kind of, I think how much did the do the money give such kind of satisfaction? I don't think so.
Mm, mm,
Those sort of little things do matter to me, and that is a important thing to me. No matter if the MVP will go be today, it won't be tomorrow, doesn't matter. Like, title is just a title. It doesn't define you in whatever way. Even if you are a DBA, or like one day you lose the job, or you'll be on the road one day trying to find a part-time job in McDonald's, that's totally fine. You are still worth it. And the same worth when you are on MVP, or when you are on the keynote, or the person who is on the road trying to find a part-time job in McDonald's, he is the same exact person to me.
yeah,
Like,
it's true.
exact same person. There is no difference whatsoever. Titles are just superficial and
Temporal.
illusion, in my opinion. I think like it's an illusion, and the illusion can be broken at any point in time. You might lose the job without without your problem. You might not do
Mm-hmm.
anything, and you might lose it one day. Like, whom do you blame? You can't blame yourself. Like, that's not your life. The person
Yeah.
who you are can never be taken away from you, no matter if you have money, if you don't have money, if you have somebody in your life, if you don't have anybody in your life, you are still the same exact person. So I value that person instead of
Uh,
valuing the titles. So yeah, that's my philosophy, I can say.
I know
And
you
I
said you
truly,
write a bit also about it, but
yeah, I
what's
truly,
very
I truly believe that.
what's very striking about your story is like you chose this field three times and they were all very tough. Maybe four times if I look at it. The first was, having to face off with your parents to say, okay, this is what I want, and I've done I've tried my best to do what you want me to do. Now I've gotten to a stage where I want to really do what I want. And it was not easy because even one might think that that one, it's you talking to someone you're familiar with, but then you got into the master's program and you were not picked originally for what you wanted and you kept trying and trying and trying. So yeah, I used to like
Several times.
falling and trying and like, no, whatever anybody says to you that is not what you are seeking, you are able to. Sorry. You are able to keep knocking on as many doors as you need to get to that final year. So I would say maybe that's one. And second was now even the training that you had to do because you understood beyond just the computer science masters that you liked DB, you liked SQL, and you went out of your way to go and take a program. And from what you said, it means that program, you must have paid money and time. It was not something done as people saying, oh, we want to encourage, some people who are not doing DB to do DB. It was a very serious program that people who are in it were making big changes based on that program. And you are the only woman there. And, people were like, oh, based on the nature of the call, 2 a.m., which is happening to you anyway, but they want you ahead. And you're like, well, this is what you wanted. And you stood again and chose it a second time. And then even at work, like you explained, you are unfortunate to work with someone who was toxic and just didn't want your progress and tried to kill your DBA plan, and you again had to go out of your way to choose it a third time. And the
Mhm.
fourth one is, no, I don't remember which one is the fourth, but to me, it felt almost like you had to keep having to go back to choosing what you want in face of different difficulties. And I think not so many of us can say we've had to
Yeah, I
choose something
changed.
twice. You have chosen,
I I
yeah.
changed three universities before I entered
Oh my
into the
God, you had to
computer
change three
science.
times.
Three universities, two universities in chemistry I changed because like I was expecting them to help me to convert in the same university to computers, but they never allowed
They
me. So I had
didn't.
to. I had to move three different states within United States to finally get into a place
Wow.
where I can I can learn computers finally. So it was a very tough journey, Michael, because I never
I,
liked chemistry. It was my father's dream for me to be pharmacist because he thought like I would be he thought like so many of his friends told like, hey, if your daughter becomes pharmacist, she'll get
to be
more
set
paid.
for life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally get it. Like he did with all the love in the world. I totally understand. He apologized to me till today,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I totally tell like, Dad, I love you. I know why you did that to me, but I took the responsibility and I changed the career, right? So there is no point in apologizing. He didn't do it
Yeah.
intentionally. So I totally understand.
Wow. And today now, like, even though it's tough, like everything that minus even the ones that people were just deliberately making things difficult than it is, from what you've explained, even the job itself is tough. You
Mm-hmm.
still keep on, and like you explained, it's not even easy with family and community work, and the more you do, the more comes to your plate. Like we are using up your time now, so I'll let you go, but I'm just trying to, especially for those watching the recording to, and for myself to see to bring out, some of the salient points that shows that I think your story is more about tenacity, the fact that if you know what you want and you just have to focus, you shouldn't give excuses. The world will help you to come up. They will throw excuses in your face, but you have to just keep working around them to find ways to make it happen. And that not everybody, some of us we see and we think, and I never thought you had this very difficult path to reach here. But see, now we are all benefiting, and it's just like a way to encourage everybody that, especially those who are asking how to become good, that,
Yeah,
it's
I
there's a
mean,
lot
like,
of personal effort.
never be afraid of failing because, like, I know there are several quotes out there, but what is failing? Like, who defined what is a failure? Like, if you think a little bit deep into it, it's all our minds and people who created
Mhm.
what is a failure and what is a success and what is a success. Like, when do you call it as a success? I mean, like, a person who don't have a job earning 500 is a success to him, but at the same time, if you are a job holder and if you get 500 a day, it's not success for you. Like, who defined the success? Like, if you think a little bit deeper on these things, it's like there is nothing in reality which is called failure or a success. It's nothing.
Mm.
Like, if our mindsets are correct, like if you think correctly, then I think you can do anything you want to do in life. Like, if you lose something, you still be the same. If you gain something also, you'll be still the same.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad that we're ending on that note. Like, this is a powerful way to go through not just career, but I think the entire life, to define for yourself what you want and use your own words and be who you internally when you strip away titles and physical stuff, be at the core what you genuinely want to be, that you can always identify with regardless of all these external things, and it will always give one stability. I'm guessing you must have a lot of that for you to be able to face, because you need energy to face most of the things that
Mm-hmm.
gets thrown your way. And if you're not strong internally and already anchored internally, you will be blown away. Wow, thanks a lot. So I will let you go, except if you want to say one
So
more thing.
some folks are really standing there and like they're listening
Yeah.
to me. How awesome they are. You all guys
Yeah.
are awesome.
Thank
I
you.
know it's late for you guys, but you're such a sweet people here on the call.
Thank
Like
you.
I am if anybody have question, please unmute and ask. Like I can give couple of more minutes, but
Oh, great.
I really
Okay.
nice seeing people still sticking in there.
In the call.
You
I will
guys
even
are
share
awesome.
your LinkedIn and your blog again so that they know that even they can still keep gaining from you. Any more questions? You have the opportunity. Do you anybody any takers? Okay. Going one, going two. Okay, Deepti, seems we want you to have a good night rest and also
Yeah,
rest
and then
because
oh boy,
yes,
somebody asked me the link, right, to the
the
demos and stuff. So
demos.
GitHub. Let me see my GitHub profile. It's on my phone.
Okay.
I don't have
I
to.
can search for it to GitHub and I'll
We
just
still
type your
didn't get
name.
our power. Glad
Uh,
like I can connect through phone. That's awesome.
yeah.
Mm,
I
yeah,
knew that you will have figured out something.
yeah.
Yes.
It's on phone data, right? We have phone data, so I connected to phone data. But how do I get
I've
my?
seen, so good. I have seen your GitHub. I've searched. So
Okay,
which
that's awesome.
one should I go? Which repo should I pick, or should I just share the entire your GitHub URL?
Please share the entire thing because if you
Okay.
go to the SQL Server 2016, I mean, like you can find more of these, more of
Okay, of all these
all of
things
them
you've
in there.
shared.
Like
Okay.
I can also put latest one in there after I get the connection. Like
Connection.
after I get
Okay.
the electricity. I didn't
I
have the
have
electricity, so maybe tomorrow I will do that. But you can find
okay.
it in
I've
my
already put
repositories.
your entire repository in the chat. So
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Great. Okay. So that's you've addressed everybody's question. James is thankful and really enjoys your story, personal share. So thank you, everyone. I think at this point, uh, it's been a good one. We've all learned. For me, motivation for always doing this session is I grow too from this session. So I'm glad that this has happened. And thank you, Deepti, for your generous technical and personal share. And I know we'll have you in future, and we will try and keep abreast of your sharings on LinkedIn and also on your blog.
Okay, thank you so
But
much,
yeah,
Michael.
thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you, everyone.
have a
Have
good
a
good night, all. Yeah.
yes.